So in this video, I'm going to look at these pigs. I'll put it all in my kettle, just over here, and then I can just pour myself in lots of teas for the strength of my flavour, recycling the bottles. So I must have the best positive criteria category. I think it's very similar to the Asian credit score rating for all the recycling on my social media that I hope to achieve. So this video is about goals, my goals, what I'd like to do, and respectfully share my goals with friends. But I'm not going to reveal all of my goals, only 2 or 3 major ones. And I'm going to finish this drink before it goes cold because it's hot. It's delicious. It's also sweetened. It is a rose hip. And there's the sugar on the bottom. Rose hip alternative to lemon is less bitter. I'm going to pause the video. I'm looking thinner than my normal. It's made me look thinner, or made my face sort of smaller to fit the camera. So in this video, I'm going to talk about everything that's happened to me for the 6 years I've used social media and how it has done everything that I don't want. Most of the things, 99.9%, it has done everything I don't want it to do, and many illegal activities. So it is a holy war by doing this video to reveal 2 of my goals, and who I am up against, who is stronger than me, politically, physically, and in every sense, but not spiritually though. And the 4th aspect is identifying every year that they had won, that this has to turn around, using history for God's people versus those people who are not God's people. And the 5th thing in this video I'd like to do is to return to the true definition of hallelujah that they have made into a Halloween. So, I'm going to try and rest my head on my hand and like this, and try and do it in a relaxing way as possible, and maintain poised, that means similar to a statue, because I want it to be a documentary to support people who are disabled, but not any disabled, people who are Christians and who respect, honor, revere, and fear God in the sense that God is the boss. Not fear God in the sense that God is bad, God is evil, God is not bad or evil. Not fear God in that sense. Fear God in the sense that God is the ultimate boss. God is ultimately in control of life-death situations, even when monsters and tyrants don't think so. They don't think so because they are warmongers, they are fearmongers, and they will inflict suffering, pain, persecution, and the increase of problems. So these are bad humans. They think that they're in control, they're gods and goddesses. But there is something worse than the god and goddesses, which is in the personality disorder I'm using animals as the example of the dog, which is a south nature, that has a double wind of frog and rat. They're the gods and goddesses. And then you have something worse than gods and goddesses who are monsters. You have the tyrants. So the monsters become tyrants, which is where my category is, my DNA is. And then opposite of those sinners, when I was a sinner, but even now, when I have to go back to my DNA, because I still have I have the new spirit, but the body and the blood is still connected to my old DNA when I was a sinner, even though the blood of Christ is more prominent and more powerful compared to my carnal, fleshly DNA. So I have two bloods, obviously. I'm here, I have the blood which goes back to Adam and Eve, and I have the blood of Christ, which is more powerful. So this, even though I don't claim to be a sinner anymore, and people hate me saying that, because once I'm free from sin, and once I'm saved forever, because that's what I'm determined to do. I don't want to break man-made law, neither do I want to break any law that God has witnessed, but they're making it devilish to say devils are now making new laws to incriminate God's people. Whether I like it or not, I'm going to be a criminal because they've made laws that would only suit the criminals. So they're to protect the criminals, not the non-criminals. So that's what they're looking to do in the future using the AI, which is constantly lying, constantly cheating to incriminate and to destroy and to even spill the blood of the innocent. So even though I may be determined never to be a criminal, they can make a system in such a way which is devilish to incriminate the innocent. So whether I'm a saint or sinner, it doesn't matter. We're all in it together. So I mentioned the dog south and the double west, which is the frog rodent personality disorder. And I've also mentioned the other type, which is the dog rat frog, which all my enemies are, who are the tyrants who become monsters. So most people assume that the tyrants who become monsters, who are the devil's stock, are more dangerous, when in fact it isn't. Even I made that mistake. It is the other one, which is in my family, my DNA, which is more dangerous, because they're the monsters who become the tyrants. The tyrant is more widespread. It believes in genocide. Compared to the monster is would commit murder and would be a serial murderer. And so that's the difference between a tyrant and a monster, in my opinion. However, I admit when I have made a mistake to assume by first impressions for their personality disorder that the dog rat frog is more dangerous compared to the dog frog rat. It's actually the other way around, because of the genocide aspect of it. So there is a holy war, there's an unholy war. So when God does the killing, when God does the destroying, when God makes them diseased to be cut off, that's what it makes a holy war, for the holy type of genocide, not the unholy type where they're land grabbing, they are cheating, stealing, lying, robbing and raping, pillaging. That's the bad type of unholy war. So all my relatives, my dad, my mother, my father, my aunties, uncles, grandparents, they all come from this one, which is the dog type, south with a double west, but it's slightly different from the other one. So both can be demonic, both can be devilish. So my relatives all come from this side, which is the dog, frog, rat. So all the rodents in the animal kingdom and all the amphibians, which are very, very similar to cats, very, very similar to rabbits, So it's all mixed up, sort of, in their personality disorder. So I'm going to use a reference point of my notes. Here's my notes. So first of all, introducing the two types. This is unfiltered video. The two types of goals, which I publicize, everything else I keep private. Because of the reality, silence is not an option. The first thing is to achieve, with God's help, to reclaim what the devils have stolen, is my one and only daughter. They've taken her away from me. I believe it was done unlawfully. I believe the system was rigged. I believe, and I know, because I've experienced it. And so they've altered our reality through the children's social services. They're targeting poor migrants, children to be taken away, not the rich migrants, the poor migrants, to be separated, children separated from the parents, even though I have not done any drug trafficking or anything illegal, such as child abuse. It was my daughter's dad that did the child abuse, and I was punished for it. And so I need to somehow, as long as I live in this country, my goal is to stop children's social services functioning so that becomes illegal to separate children from their families, even if they're abused. There needs to be a different type of intervention. But if I am mistaken, if there is another way of doing this, to introduce, rather than to stop children's social services, there could be a different alternative way to make them less powerful, is to introduce new agents who are going to look at this agent, which is destructive, to implement new laws, such as surveillance of cameras literally in the house to prevent children being abused, but they remain in their homes, which would also save a lot of money from wasting the money on this agency which separates children from their parents, or a detention centre which we call the mental health services. So there should be something that I can do as my goal through this experience for the betterment of all families from all backgrounds, rich, poor, etc. Because it is hell on earth, and there has to be new regulations, totally new tools and teams not to allow children's social services to have too much power, too much abuse, and too much disinformation, misrepresentation, to suit the abuser's narrative, so the abuser always wins. So that has to, if I can't stop it, I can start something else to minimize their power, because they have too much power that they abuse. The second thing I want to, again, so it's never our narrative, our true story, it's always their narrative, which is false, it's a fraud. The second thing I want to do as a goal is to implement my roots. So even though I call myself English, because I lived here since I was a child, I need to have a human right to be able to speak my own native language and to teach my children, whether I have birthed them or whether I have adopted them, to teach them my native language, my roots, my culture, so it's not a cancel culture, and for the betterment of society. So if I'm in the street, for example, there's a law that says you're not allowed to speak any other language other than the English in the streets, because they can categorize you as a terrorist, or you could be organizing some crime. That's terrible. It's actually the other way around, to not be able to do that, and it's a wrong law. It's a type of law which makes assumptions. It makes empty speculations, which is again a devilish law, and it is wrong and wicked. And so to balance this power, to balance this type of narcissistic abuse and wrong law, which is not based on my British citizenship, it's based on my appearance, it's also based on my language that I speak. So this is totally out of order. We could do the same to you. For the British who go and purchase holiday houses in a foreign country speaking English, in a foreign country, we could do the same thing to you. So it's cold, cruel, and calculated. So it's not about facts, it's about fiction, it's about fantasy. So therefore it's a law designed to suit the criminals, to help and heal and nurture and guide and even caress, pat on the head. Well done for criminals and for cowards and for every type of corruption. So that law, it's suiting, it's designer for them to appease the bullies and kidnappers. So these are the two goals I have as long as I live in this country or any other country. I think it's an unfair rule. And I also like to, within these two goals, focus and concentrate on every type of child abuse that there is and find that to be limited and ended. So far it is not limited, it is not ended, which is domestic terrorism. It needs to be limited, it needs to be limited and ended, every type of child abuse, which is currently unlimited and never ended, where children carry on being abused. And across of England and Wales and Scotland, there are very few agencies or support networks to help children who have been abused are somehow blamed. It's somehow their fault automatically and silenced. So in reality, in this video, what is the holy war based on God's revenge rather than humans' revenge? Number 2, how to be against from the first impressions of everyone that is the bad guy, who's made a fashion out of being a bad individual and representing hell angels by choice. That is never vetted, that is never... So who's using a bad type of magic? Who's using bad type of influence? How can I be motivated by first impressions to spot them out and say no, and block them? And the third aspect is personal, based on my appearance, language, and status quo, which they have attacked using, for example, Arabs, both the Jews and the non-Jews, and using American individuals who are currently global leaders, whose name I don't want to mention. For example, doing illegal things for using Just Eat or Deliveroo. They can then see my card details, even when I had opted out in keeping my bank details encrypted in the account. I opt out, I delete it after using it. I don't keep it on record permanently. Even then, they still can see my card details. Then they could jump onto the Visa, which is Visa is separate. So even a debit card has a Visa on it. So they can monitor my bank account through Visa, all my expenditures through Visa, because every card, even debit cards, has Visa in it. Even if it isn't a credit card, it's a debit card, it still has Visa on it. So they can illegally monitor my bank details, which they've done. And so that's jump number one. Jump number 2 and 3 is that they can control what goes in my basket, what I'm allowed to have, what I'm not allowed to have. Even though they do have those items in stock, they lie through these to tell the packers not to package through the system, through a robot. So they control the robot. And the third aspect of it is that they can also track and trace my telephone number, which I'm not using, or my bank details for my benefits, which is like it's like a spider's web. It's like join the dots. They can use my bank details to find out where I receive my benefits from, and then they can alter my benefits or cause systemic abuse. So they've used me as the type of a guinea pig, and they're bad pigs. Also, what the left is doing, called me a pig, when in fact they're the pig. Because what they've done is they saw me claiming benefits, and many have been jealous and envious because they've accused me wrongly and said that I wasn't eligible for the benefits I was getting through lies and deliberate putting me down with they're strangers that don't even know me. And I had no choice because they're politicians. And so they've attacked me in this sense to say, well, if she can do it, we can do it. So they had this huge group created by the leftists who were jealous and envious of me, claim state benefits that they were not eligible for, that they overpowered and overturned to make it look like that they are eligible for the benefits. So that they've stolen a huge lump of money for people who were not supposed to claim benefits, were claiming benefits to appease the bully in the far left government because they watched me. And I find that alarming. I find that I could not have any peace. I could not have any joy in my home because somebody had said something about me, which is a lie, that they made the lie stronger than the truth. So therefore, everything that I praised God for my basic human rights to survive as a single person, lone sole person, has been stolen through social media, through the left. So it's not the social media's fault, it's the politicians who are in control of the social media. And so on the top of the peak of their power is to make interference and to introduce new ways which are destructive to me but constructive to them. And I found that alarming. So that means do you trust your politician? Number one. Do you see what your politician is doing? Number 2. Do you love the truth more than the lie, or do you love the lie more than the truth? Number 3. Number 4. Do you experience any positive change from your politician to be on time, or is it too slow? So that means they wait for the worst case scenario, the worst thing to happen before they intervene. When the damage has already been done, they could have prevented my illness. They could have prevented me becoming seriously ill. Prevention is better than cause. That politician doesn't believe in that, should be fired, which is point number 4, because it goes against human rights and health and safety aspects. Number 5, do you know that your politician is cherry-picking, choosing who they like and who they don't like? Number 5. So this is the aspect of the 5 questions that I have looked at, which I need to do a damage control to say, look how many goals I have had that they have blocked and turned it around for their goals only. So this is what I call domestic and social terrorism. This is not what I tolerate. And yet I have to endure it, to have a stranger dominate my life through politics, through news agents, through individuals who would read my emails without my consent. They would read my telephone number without my consent, even though I blocked it. So this is how they've weaponized social media. They would read my national insurance number, my hospital number, which is a privacy violations. So therefore, my presence on social media is not for my advantage, it's for my disadvantage. So I'm praying and have a purpose and a plan with God to make a balance of power, which is my goal, through using constructive, positive politics that is for the people, not only for the dominating opposition. To say it's not about the people, it's about the principle, it's about the law that they have created to suit criminals only, and propaganda, which is terrifying. I have been suffering for recent 20 years due to propaganda and due to this wrong type of anointing, wrong type of baptism for the hell angel, not for the holy angels. So this is intimidating, it's interfering too much, it's the peak of rebellion and stubbornness and foolishness that they have normalized. So it's a monstrosity. There's nothing normal. I have to accept mess. I have to accept things that are overwhelming. I can only do one task at a time. I can only play my music, my tune, and use it as a radio, as my tool, but they turned it around and turned it into a weapon. And so this is the example of holy war versus unholy war, where God uses truth, not treachery. God uses trust to build, not to destroy. But God also this is how God destroys the destroyers and betrays the betrayers, according to the Old Testament. So any Christian or any religious person who says that the old, which was 5,000 years older compared to the New Testament, which was approximately 5,000 years younger from when the both were made. Both are relevant, both are still relevant, and even stronger in the New. So the Old Testament is even stronger in the New Testament. It's only condensed. So, for example, the 10 Commandments have become now, they're still 10 Commandments, but they have been made smaller, condensed into a smaller size through Christ. So they're still 10 Commandments, but they have been condensed, they have been evolved, they are, how can I explain this? Similar to a mobile phone where you get an upgrade. So they have been upgraded, they have become more powerful. So anyone who says that the older one is not more relevant, the Old Testament is less relevant to the New Testament, is wrong and out of order. Saying that, so I cannot eloquently describe what I'm trying to say. However, since this video isn't filtered, I give myself credit for doing whatever I can do. And so it's very fascinating how God uses situations and certain people to build and even to find a way to say, take your evil back. So it's not only about building for the sake of the truth and trust, it is also there for destroying the exact evil that they've put on me is going back on them, which is fascinating, particularly when you have to live next to an evil neighbor who kills his own cats, or you have to live little kittens. that he would flush down the toilet or that he would put in the bin. You don't have a choice what your neighbour is, who your neighbour is. You don't have a choice what your parents are, who your family is. Most people have relatives that they don't choose, unless you're a test tube baby. And so even then, you don't choose who your parents are. So I have become uncomfortable using social media, threatened to speak. I have to be afraid. So every type of freedom is destroyed in my life as a result. People can see it has been taped, electricity after a flood in the ceiling. I have no access to that loft. I asked them for confirmation that I have a new tank. Denied. Still having the old tank. I have asked for confirmation in writing the date and the reason why this flood has occurred. They refused to give me that. I have asked that they do their jobs properly. Nope, it's still leaking. The ceiling is still leaking. Let's show the ceiling leaking. There it is. Poor workmanship. I have asked for them to keep their promise and do what they say they're going to do from August. They were supposed to finish this room, the ceiling and the floor. They made excuses and they blamed me. For example, they had no access to this property, which is a lie. So everything I've spoken to from my lips, which was the truth, they refused to listen, or they cherry-picked what they want to hear rather than what I was actually saying, which is extremely selfish and dangerous to have such individuals working as professionals. And then I discovered to my horror she was surveillancing me every time I called my landlord, which is Thrive Homes, where I've lived here for 12 years. So that's how they've attacked my tenancy, by writing false reports and defrauding me the true information, so that I no longer trust them and I feel afraid every time they come to this property. So it's like a house arrest. It's like the police being in control of my landlord, not my contract and not my person. They're saying I'm mad. My person is mad. My lips, that they listen to me speaking, is about lies, but they are the truth keepers. So they've twisted that. And any instructions I made is mad. So I'm not allowed to make any instructions without a complaint. And if I make a complaint, it makes further delays. So the more they get involved to do the right thing, the more they do the wrong thing. They've made an excuse and protected the criminal who had deliberately damaged the water tank in the loft, which was in April 2025. And so they're protecting a criminal, they're protecting a royalist, they're protecting a celebrity, and they're protecting perverts and obscurance of justice. And so what they're doing, which is exciting to them, and they're saying, I'm the one who's boring. And they've denied me as a health patient in hospital treatment, the correct type of treatment, the correct type of attention, the correct type of support in the community. They've denied me anything positive. It's only for the tyrants and the monsters, not for God's people, not for non-criminals. And they treat me as a foreigner. I'm not a foreigner. So this is under section, this type. They also track and trace wherever I go through GPS and maps. They discredit everything. They put all types of negative information about me. And so the gift of prophecy is to say that I hope to God and pray to God that for God's vengeance to make a new majority rise up against these monstrosities and tyrants and expose them for what they're doing, which is out of order, to empower pedophiles, perverts, criminals, perpetrators of antisocial behavior, to employ them to promote them. And that's exactly what they're commissioning when they do their votes. So we should not vote at all for this type of system, which corrupts Section 17, Section 20, through overpowerment, overturning, and rigging the system. That's exactly what they've done to me. So the situation is so bad, no amount of compensation would make me feel better. Only God's exact vengeance to destroy the destroyers and betray the betrayers. But would that make me as bad as them? No, because God does it differently. God has a different agenda. And out of that huge difference, I'm only mentioning 2 goals. Everything else is kept quiet, hushed, coded, protected. I haven't revealed it into the public. I have also mentioned that I had used a mask of saying the opposite of what I mean, unless I'm using God in it. If I've mentioned God in it, in the name of God's name, that is Yeshua, and any name that I've used, such as YHWH, who is a very ancient God, if I've mentioned God, which makes people cringe, particularly God's name, Yeshua, and I've written a commentary with YHWH, the initial of God, who protects the Sabbath and peace, then I am not masking my video. I'm saying exactly what I mean. It's not masked. It's not. It's not timid, or it is timid. I have to do a lot of acting to come across as a victim and not a survivor, because tyrants don't like survivors. They don't want us to survive the lies, the abuse, the neglect, the abandonment, and any hurt and harm that they have caused illness. They don't want us to survive. So any credential I have, for me, what I have achieved, if I advertise it, if I talk about it, they automatically want to swap, steal, and snatch. Say, snap. I did it better than you. Repeat. I did it better than you. Repeat. You had no family. I'm making a family. Repeat. So it's so vomit. It's their mindset is the same as an adolescent, teenager, or a child who is bragging and gloating over someone else who has been abused. And so they don't do it grudgingly. It's not a gradual, subtle thing. It's instant, using the technology. However, if we didn't have the technology, they would do it gradually as a subtle bully. Since we have technology, it's never a subtle bully. It's never a subtle bully anymore. It's instant. Pounce. Attack. Of everything. My bank account, my bills, everything they're overseeing. Which is I'm going to go through a list. What is unholy war and dogmatic, to reveal the aspect of someone's face, which is what Nazis did, and to corrupt that, to say that my face is ugly, everything about my face, my scars, is about badness, it's not about goodness. And so that's what the Nazis did, and that's what they're doing using technologies. Instant abuse. It's not a subtle bully, so it's an instant discredit and disservice. They're making a new Messiah, a new Jesus. They're making a new Bible. They're making a new message, which is opposite from the ancient one. They're counterattacks. So wherever I said I had won and they had lost, they have to get their revenge instantly using technology. To reveal the opposite of 1 Chronicles chapter 21, when King David saw the angel standing in heaven and earth, with a drawn sword in his hands, extended over a city, which in them days was Jerusalem. And so they would now take that message and corrupt it, for example, to say it's part of a tribe that they claim to be part of King David's family, which is a total fraud. Again, this is an unholy war. Another thing that they have done as a target that they call thanksgiving to God. So it's a different God. It's not the God of Ancient of Days from the Bible. It's a different God from a new Bible and a new type of authority. And to report this is powerful in this video, to say that I am their opposition, because they are creating systemic abuse using technology and a new religion, which they call Christianity, Islam, Israel, which isn't actually. It's a fraud. It's everything based on a tyranny and a cult. So they're even coming out of cultism to protect themselves and to keep their practices private, because I've exposed them as a cult. Now they're retreating and saying, oh, we're not a cult. No. Because they've acknowledged that I have watched them and I have exposed them as the cultist. They're doing these rituals as very rich individuals. So they've also swapped between the lion and the mouse. So the lion would be the north and the south. So they have chosen these perverts and obscurists of justice and these leaders that want to dominate the whole world, similar to Hitler and worse. They are doing the opposite of humble sinners and natural humans. They're making supernatural, unnatural humans through the personality madness, cuckoo disorder, through the north element. So the north element is the most evil element, which they use with the mouse. So they're swapping the lion with the mouse. So again, it's a double wind, but it's not the wind, the west element for good, it's for evil. To make the lion fragile or frail and a tyrant victim. So it's a tyrant victim. It's a tyrant acting as a victim, because they're promoting in every aspect of life a false witness and a false victim. So the actual real victims and the actual true witnesses don't exist. So this union is being perfected using the technology to make technology utterly evil. And so no one can shine a light and say we could use technology for good, not only for evil. First of all, they find it impossible to tell the truth. Everything that they do is a lie to the public. Everything. So when they're promoted in their work, when they're promoted in their in everything that they do is a lie. In their union. So they say, of course you trust me because you're shopping on the internet, you shop online, so of course you trust me. That's what they're saying. Not only on the internet, outside my window and outside my door. Sitting there at the front line. You trust me because you're now going to choose the hell angel to be your representative. The hell angel, human or angels, humans who are even worse than hell angels. And how are they worse than hell angels? Because they readily know what's good and they choose the bad. And hell angels have had many years, decades, to practice the lie. I should be now terrified and run. Where am I going to run? Where am I going to hide? There's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide. First of all, Second of all, I have identified these bad warriors, even if they have a helmet or uniform, for battle. It's about first impressions. Who are they united with? What is their union? Is it worth it for the poppy field, the poppy flower we wear? Was it worth it that so many have died over a lie to protect who? Which is deliberately breaking God's laws. And number 3, they're surrounding us because we said that we fear God and God encamps God, those people who love God. They now make the false God humans and the hell angels a God, saying this exactly the same thing. We're surrounding you. We're encamping your tent. So also I've noticed they're saying if they give something to me, they can take something away from me. But if I grab it and make sure to say, I now have this credential because I have stolen it, I've grabbed it when you weren't looking, so you can't get it back. This is another aspect of holy war versus unholy war. They're saying that if the enemy has given me something, they can take it away from me. Compared to me being an enemy, a holy type of a monster, a holy type of a tyrant that does exist, to grab it and say they can't take it. They're the donkey's funeral. They can't reclaim it. Because they constantly tempt and taunt people who are weaker than them and who have lost everything, because they're hell angels. These humans are worse than hell angels. And the more you try and protect, the more you try to protest, the worse it gets. It becomes a death trap. So it becomes pointless, nothing. There's no need. It becomes rubbish for me to protest or for me to try and protect myself. In the sense of trying to justify myself through legal means, because they own that the tyrant and the monsters, the far left and the far right, owns every type of legal office in this country. So me using legal aid is pointless because they would win anyway, and every evidence would be deleted. So they say lock, stock and barrel, to say it is now credential for me to be a gangster, to oppose police and to oppose government, because we have no government that is right. It's all corrupt. Because we have no police that is not corrupt. They're all corrupt. So now I have this situation where I have to say, I can only have holy war if I become a cult, if I become a gangster, and if I wear the disguise of a criminal. And it sounds insane, but it's the only way to adjust to a world bad majority. We need a different type of majority so that we can tell the difference between the good guys and the bad guys. I never thought I would want to be part of a battlefield or a disguise of a gangster, or to wear some type of a military uniform to have to fight all the time in order to have all the freebies and survival kits and social media access. So these bad aliens are considerably taller, these bad aliens are the same as the grey aliens. They're the same as destroying angels. And they have tremendous statues through history that they have put to complement the tyrants and the monsters and protect these bad leaders. So I believe I was very, very stubborn in the good sense, obstinate, thinking, well, perhaps we should get rid of all these bad statues that they're worshipping, even the dead. They're worshipping even the dead. Another thing I've noticed is the tin vagina made out of tin and metal, which they're now saying they have stolen my medical records and treating me as a teenager or some type of a punk, which I'm not. And they're saying in order for me to gather my friends, I have to be some type of a punk, some type of a disguised as a punk or disguised as a gangster in order to enter the battle between good and evil. And it's all about the mind of a penis or a vagina that they have publicized through pornography. And they have publicized pornography through Neighbours of Hell, enfolding us all into a porn hub, into the ejaculation of a man's penis, which is a perverse generation. So I also have to disguise myself as a whore or as a prostitute in the Big Bang in order to participate in this battlefield between good and evil. And otherwise, if I resist it, I'm even more vulnerable. If I'm overwhelmed by it, I'm even more vulnerable. If I say no, I guard my body and mind, I become even more vulnerable. So I'm not allowed to be their opposition, their opponent, their objection. I'm not allowed to be, because if I am, they would attack me even more. And it's a nightmare that never ends. I have to pretend that I tolerate criminals, pedophiles, pornographic stars, and all unnatural humans. Because if I don't pretend and I say I don't like, I will then have death threats, and my housing crisis will become worse. So this is the situation of my daughter in her education system, secular. And so I don't want to end up being the small party, the minority, because I oppose them. I don't want to become dogmatic, black and white thinking that would shrink me and make me a small person, not in that sense. I only want to be a small person in the sense to say that God's authority is more important than my authority. And so that when I give my life away, I will gain my life. And the dying perverts who have denied me my civil and human rights as a woman, and even my gender from my past, all these bad men who I have had in sexual intercourse. There's only been 2 men, and I had been raped without ever having a relationship with 1 man. It was never a relationship. It was grooming. It was invasion. So God saved me from this. 1 of them is dead out of the 3. The 2 of them are still alive. So therefore, there's a very little bit left that makes me impure, according to religious fanatics who are thinking dogmatically. They're saying, I'm not perfect, I'm not a spotless bride, I'm an adulterer, because these two men are still alive. Somehow it's all my fault. I'm the one who is undisciplined, and I'm the one who is all the wrongs that they say, an imposter, and who has no self-control. So they've completely covered my history, what I have deliberately exposed, because I don't want these abusers to get away with their badness. But instead, I was expecting the good to come out of it. It was the bad that came out of it. They become more empowered and protected. And I became more persecuted for revealing how they abused me, and as a virgin bride, and how I was robbed and raped. So on behalf of me and all women who have had abuse, it's the same as being married to a prostitute. And it seems to last forever until they drop dead. So even though I'm saying I'm single, if God has not forgiven me, if Christ had not forgiven me my sin, which is adultery, one die, you marry another, is it possible for God to forgive me? Yes. Is it possible for God to remove my sin and my past? Yes. But the devil is using my past against me and saying that I'm still married to a man called John, and that I'm still married to the one who raped me, a man called Gareth, and I actually have two husbands who I haven't seen or slept with since I was in my 20s. And so this is what the devil is doing, to pervert me, to make me as a type of a prostitute, to the pimp. They've empowered the pimp. And my daughter is become a type of a bitch and a bastard in a perverse generation. So this is what they have done. This is what they have achieved, which is outrageous against my faith and against my God. It's all bad news. There's no good news. It's disgusting. And so doing this video, I think, would, if any woman who wants to protect her, not to lose her mind, sanity, is don't use social media. I never used social media before. First time in the 6 years of my life of nearly 50 years. And technology has become more bad than good, unless you're protected by the blood of Christ to reveal the truth. But truth and trust and love is not enough. You need the weapons, you need the new majority, and you need to wear a disguise. Because they're wearing the disguise. The devil's lot looks like an angel, like a holy angel, but it's a devil in disguise. How much more should God's people be disguised? I send you a quote from the Bible to 72 disciples as sheep among the wolves, wearing the wolf's skin. So we also have to have the disguise to first of all, rebuke the troublemakers and the wicked and the wrongful, and second of all, expose all the lies and make the truth more powerful than the lies. And that's what I have done. Particularly Todd Grande on YouTube, who has protected the social worker called Elaine. I won't mention her surname because it sounds too German. She's used him. Many other YouTubers who are criminals that she's used for a voiceover, for advertisement, and for promotion in her career, even though she may be retired. Dirty old crab. Exquisitely, exclusively for her. So the very ones that should be in prison are not in prison. The very ones who should not be in prison are in prison as a result of what's happening through technology. Before we even had social media like we have now, the government has used this old social media and has advanced equipment and technologies that we don't know anything about. So they have been at this game. They have been at this corrupt authority for a lot longer, secretly, in a secret society, watching us all and made fool of us all. We're stupid for using our tools. We're stupid for trusting them and believing that they're telling the truth. For more than 100 years, maybe maybe 500 years ago, they had technologies and internets that we didn't know anything about, whether they were spying on our bank accounts, spying on our shopping. Maybe since the 1950s, they had a modern type of technology that we didn't know anything about before it even arrived publicly. What the darkness has done, hello darkness, my old friend, to diminish light and to say that God does not exist, and it's only about the tyrants who are the real victims here. Fraud, they're not the real victims. Entertainment systems, films, games, music. I've also noticed they've put women with blonde hair to come across as good angels, the good guys. People with dark hair and dark eyes to come across as the bad guys, and less beautiful. This is another thing that they have been creating and orchestrating this mess to cherry pick who they say is beautiful, who they say should be the first heard and the first seen. Everybody else, they're treating us as children. We should be not first seen and last heard. Oh God, I can't say it properly. But that's the gist. It's first come, first seen basis is also another lie. And it's embarrassing to talk about it. To know that your wife or your husband is this. To acknowledge that your wife or your husband only married you for money or or a bad opportunity to abuse your child. And I'm convinced by this because I am a number one enemy of Hollywood. This is where my ex-husband got his idea from, in his mad, insane mind, to abuse my child when I wasn't looking. And so it's not thrilling. It's a rotten egg. Everything about him is a rotten egg. So even though I may look like a rat, he doesn't look that much of a rat. He is the real rat. So it's a bit of a mixed, it's a double, as I say, double wind where they fail the holy test. So I can't hang up the phone. I can't say no. I can't say you're a false professional. Everything about you is a bad acting skill. Your narrative, you are the victim as an actor. And if I become a victim because of technology, I'm not allowed to be the true victim. I'm the villain. I'm the bad guy. I'm an automatic criminal. So this is going to be the responsibility of the saints and of all people that want to be the good guy to acknowledge we can't say no. We can't hang up to tyrants. I realize this since this man who I have abstained from sex since my daughter's dad in 2005. It's now 2025, going to New Year 2026. They've empowered him. Who empowered him? I won't even mention who empowered him. I don't want to mention their names. I don't want to see their faces. I don't want to hear their voices. I don't want to know that they exist. They don't exist, even if they pop up on my channel. They've empowered this older man who deliberately lied, deliberately cheated, and deliberately pounced on me And he got away with it when I reported it to the police because of hate crime. And the definitive answer is to empower him, to give him all the blessings of the devil. We're supposed to say, hi, 5 alive. But it's terrible. It's a type of a cancer that you cannot cut off. It's a type of a disease or COVID-19 you cannot destroy without God's help. So I tried to hang up. I tried to make him understand how he had gone wrong, to say you should never normalize perversion. You should never normalize lies. You should never normalize molesting a disabled woman who is helpless and weaker than you physically. And he normalized it. He used it as an operation. He used it for all that has happened to me with this older gentleman who was 4 times older than me, was connected to a family friend. And then I found out that they're both corrupt. They're both insane, that I didn't know, because I was going through a divorce from a domestic abuse. So the Saudi Arabia globalists, Arabs, the Frankenstein government enemy, all of this is so colonial, so capitalist based, that even childbirth is there to make them bigger in number for the devil's lot. Coming from one part of Islamic world and the other part of Arabs who are calling themselves Jews. And according to Donald Trump, he has a bit of both. And Jonathan Pye, he has a bit of both. It seems too good to be true for them. How can they be a bit of both? It's worthwhile as a result to have a bit of both. So I am concerned about this, not in an angelic voice, in the my tired voice, to say that these powers and principalities want to be colonialists and capitalists, and they want to grow society of children being born to very bad women who promote their politics and their technology of hell on earth, of group sex, of bad bosses, of playing the music in the sun, not for God, but for the devil. So this is the situation. It's not a mental illness. It is the circumstance. This is probably everything about the devil being in control and nothing about God being in control. It's also an emergency situation where I feel it's a dead end everywhere I turn. Created and designed by someone who has a university degree and intellectual ability to make my experience more dangerous and make me as a beggar on the street. They've stepped in, they've become involved through abusing professional powers and also political powers and abusing intellectual powers, philosophical powers, to make me want to be wrongly categorized and sectioned under mental health, or run away to the Eskimos somewhere to escape this bad double wind, this bad Western demonic, devilish system. It wasn't always this way, but it was probably used since 1950s to engineer society and do social engineering. So now they want to go all the way to Alaska and destroy Eskimos and the remotest place on the earth. It isn't enough that they destroy their own people. They have to go to the remotest place of the earth, which would be even more dangerous. So I'm documenting this to acknowledge to what extent they've destroyed too much. I can't visit a friend or phone a friend without them nosing in where it's none of their business. So I have no choice. I have no freedom because I have rebuked their crimes and their perversions to say I'm not one of you. And it's a joke. It's stupidity to assume that there is privacy and protection using social media. Because as soon as the authorities find out who they don't like, and if they don't like you, you're dead. You don't exist. So that's my case as a result in closing this video. Everything that I don't want to happen has happened using social media as a discredit of social media. But the fact that I've said that would now make me exposed to even more danger. And I had to do it for my own sanity and for my own video, which I'm going to put on my memory card, which they can also delete. They can delete or download my video and delete my memory cards, make it completely blanked out. It is so disgusting to have to force to be in systemic abuse and not be able to do anything about it, unless I become one of them. If I had known that, I would have never used social media. It's too late now.